All right, people. How are you? I've done some Frankensteining on this little bass. I actually nearly sent it back, right? Um, I couldn't get the action down, but it turns out, right? You see, get in close. See these little fellas here that run in the saddle. These lads. Hang on, see if I can get in a wee bit. You can't really hang on. You heard on a second. How you doing, feel? Okay, so these little fellas here, they run in a kind of U-shaped channel, right? Squared off U-shaped channel. And what happens is, or what's happening to me rather, was that they were getting caught in the finish almost, you know. And if I just had to take out the saddle and kind of loosen up and squeeze it down, just went, clicked in like that. And then I was able to put it in, put it back up. Anyway, I did a live show with it, live gig with it on Thursday just gone. And the pickup was just average. I just couldn't get it to cut through properly, you know. Couldn't get it to kind of. I'm used to being able to hear myself when I'm playing and singing. I'm using in-ear monitors, you know, so it shouldn't have been a problem. I just found it was getting lost, and I remembered that I had this EMG pickup here. So this is an EMG MM-TW. So it's got the split coil. And I said, you know, feck it, I'll go home and see will it fit. And I thought it would fit because I left the scratch plate off because you can see where it was there. I'm going to have to make one up. I'll get down to my dad tomorrow to give me a hand. He's 79, but he's good with a router, you know. Anyway, this ear was catching there. And these two ears at the top were catching on the top there. But if you look at this route, you have a massive opportunity there to, you know, put different pickups in. But anyway, I went and I did the gig. I had to do some drilling and that kind of thing. I had to drill the hole for the pickup wires that make that a wee bit bigger. Excuse me. That's what you want to hear in your headphones. I had to make that hole a wee bit bigger through there to go into the control cavity. And it should be 18 volts because EMG recommend that dual coil pickups get 18 volts. So I'm going to red out the back here for 2 battery boxes, and that'll be the next wee job. But anyway, live, I found the bass was really usable, and particularly with this Stingray style pickup in, right? So all I have at the moment, it's just tone and volume. And now it is active in the sense that you have to put a battery in it, but it's not active. It's a passive pickup. Figure that one out. It's on the box and everything. So I'm not going to do a super long video on it anyway because I'm not finished. I have all these other bits to do, but I was quite glad to keep the wee Hils bass, and the lads in the band were very happy they could hear it, and I thought it might have been a bit low on bottom end until I heard it through the PA. It was just like boom, you know. The G string, because it's a short scale bass, isn't as zingy as a G string on a 34-inch scale bass, but you do get this kind of creamy quality high up that you don't get out of a long scale bass. So it's a kind of trade off. So anyway, yeah, I'll just give you a quick listen to it. We'll do, it's just tone off, tone halfway on, and tone full on, and then I'll do the other pickup. The boys are home from school today. But it really does, it kind of has that. And the funny thing is, I got the pickup, we've got a local kind of selling thing here. I don't know, you know, it's like Gumtree or Craigslist or whatever. It's called Everett's, and someone was selling the pickup, and it was cheap. It was like 60 quid, or might have been cheaper, 50 euros or something. And you hear that? Where's that? That's all the way open. Right, let's do some sounds. I'm going to do tone off, right? Alright, let's do tone halfway up. And when they're up halfway. Alrighty, and now let's do tone all the way up, and then I'll just show you real quick the split coil thing, right? I'm going to turn this down now. Alright, and when you pull out this thing, you get that jazz. Now the volume goes down. Hold on. So if you've some way of combating the volume drop, go into that really, like I did a couple of times the other night. Now look, it does need a setup still. I'm not going to go too mad on that because I'm going to change the strings. Comes with the Dario strings, which is cool, isn't it? EXLs, right, hang on. Let's go. There you go. Try to see why something good so bad. It's great. Like it, again, like the money. Like so, it's 411 euros, and that pickup I think is 88 quid or 90 quid or something like that. Let's call it 100 quid. Now, a friend of mine bought the Sterling Music Man Shortscale thing, and it's beautiful. It is, but it's not headless. First thing would be a problem for me. And the other thing is, I think it's an awful lot of money for it. It's nearly 900 euros, 899, something he paid. Okay, so you'll pop that in and out. Now, I'll be back when I have the pick guard made. I'm going to try go mirror if I can, because like I'm from Dublin, you know, black bass, mirror pick guard, of course. Here is the octaver with the full pickup on, right? Number 2 it is here. That's lower, isn't it, there? You're hearing a bit of the mic. Don't want the rest of it. Honestly, I'm really impressed at how it's turned out. There's my and you can get a lot. You can dick around with the tone an awful lot. Anyway, enough playing with the sounds. For 80 or 90 or 100 euros, the difference that pickup has made to this bass is off the scale. Like it really is. It's become very usable all of a sudden. And like I'm only a little guy, so not having to do that. There's a guy, Jonathan Wong, go look him up actually. He's a very interesting fella. He's the short scale bass king, and he was the first person I saw modify one of these. He ended up with 2 jazz pickups in it, and that wouldn't be for me. But it could be for you, and you have this route. I also bought a router. I'm going to figure out how to use it. I'll be tearing chunks out of things. But anyway, look, you've been very good. The thing is, for me, I'd love to be bringing out my vintage Steinbergers, the gigs, and all the rest of that. And it is a privilege to own them. But you have to realise as well, you can open the back of the van to take it in, and it's gone, you know. And there it was, gone. Something like this is just so replaceable, isn't it? And like it's just so. You get on to whoever's selling them and get yourself another one. But that's the other thing I meant to say. I did actually put this in the correct spot, right? So I have a love-hate relationship with Stingrays, in that there's a lot about them I love, and then they also drove me mad for years. So I had lots of them. I think I couldn't tell you many I had. It was more than 10 anyway. And I had a really old one, a B01 series one. The neck was fucked on that. So someone had defretted it to kind of compensate. And I had a string of 80s ones, because I was buying and selling guitars at one point, trying to, I'd make a few quid, and I had this was in the 80s, and I was trying to afford something, so even if I made a tenner, well, it was a tenner, wasn't it? But anyway, I had a load of these things, and I used to love them in one sense, but there's a couple of things that annoyed me. Some of them had a very quiet G string. I don't ignite that debate here. I suppose some people say it depends on, it's a preamp issue that you're pushing all the bass up and whatever it does. I don't know. It looks like some of them, the G string didn't quite cross the pole piece. And then I had one of them that was just really badly made. It was one of the raw, unfinished neck you know, where they left the neck raw, more or less. And I was traveling around the world playing at that point, to different countries and things. And every time I take it out of the case, it'd be either the neck would be as straight as a ramrod, or it would be bent. Like I'd have to set it up, and then over the course of the night, it'd fucking right. Oh my god, what a nightmare it was. Just a bad bass. Now you can get that with an expensive bass or a cheap bass, and but there is something about a Stingray in a band context that can really, really work. Like they aren't in a band context. They aren't what you might think they are. There's a huge, big, ballsy bass end. They've got an awful lot of natural middle that helps you cut through. And people say it's a one-trick pony. It's a fucking great trick. You know? And that slap sound. It is very much its own thing, you know? And so to be able to do that and figure out that an awful lot of it actually is the pickup and where it's positioned. The bass isn't really as important, you know, not really. So I have, what you do is you measure from the nut. Now I've seen people measure to the saddle. How far from the saddle, depending on the brand of strings you're using, could be anywhere, couldn't it? But I go 69 centimeters from the nut to the center point of that pickup. Now, that pickup has that thing, hang on, that I love. This is the other thing, because I played Stingrays for quite a long time in the late 80s, early 90s. I kind of got used to the string tension with my thumb there, and that's where my thumb goes. Like, so even on a bass where I don't necessarily have, let's say I have two pickups, I'll be trying to do that, and that's where my hand wants to be. Anyway, enough rambling. I'll be keeping you posted on this wee thing as it goes along, and I'm going to buy a white one. Have to buy the white one, or I might get this one painted. I don't know. Anyway, thanks for putting up with me. Stay in touch.